Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm super excited to be back. It has been so long since I filmed a video or even uploaded anything. Life has been pretty crazy and I've just been adjusting to motherhood. And so today, on that note, I wanted to kind of explain my birth story because it was kind of a crazy one, and yeah, so let's just jump right in. So on May 15th, I went in for a routine checkup, kind of. I was 40 weeks at this point. Like, just rewind a little bit, I thought that I was gonna have my baby early, like the entire last month of my pregnancy. I thought, oh my gosh, he's gonna come today, like, you know, 2 weeks from my due date, and I thought that he was gonna come at any time, and it did not happen. So anyway, May 15th, I went in and saw my midwife, and she checked me, and I was still at a 3, and I had been at a 3 for probably about 3 weeks or so, and so I was like, oh my gosh, because the week prior she had stripped my membranes, and you know, I was doing all these things to try to like progress and, you know, kickstart labor and all this stuff. None of that really worked for me. So anyway, so she checked me and I was still at a 3, and she said, all right, well, I'm going, you know, we'll set a date for you to be induced. And so we set a date for that Wednesday, and I went in on a Monday. So that Wednesday I had a date set to be induced. She did a couple other tests. She did like a stress test or something where she monitored my belly for like 20 minutes, and she did an ultrasound, and we kind of asked her, you know, does it seem like the baby's gonna be really big? Because I'm a small girl. I'm like 5'3", and you know, before I was pregnant, I probably weighed about 98 pounds, like since high school. I had this big belly, and you know, it just seemed like he was gonna be a little bit bigger. She did an ultrasound, and she said, oh, he'll probably be about, you know, 8 pounds, you know, maybe, you know, high 7, whatever. So I was like, oh, okay, you know, that's big, but it's, you know, normal, I guess. So that whole day I just, you know, done things normally. And then around 11:30 that night, I went to the bathroom and I noticed I was leaking some fluids. And so I just kind of like stood up, and it was still leaking. I was like, okay, this might be my water breaking. I just kind of sat there for a little bit to see if it would kind of stop, and it didn't. So I get up and I'm like, okay, this is definitely my water. I go into the living room and I tell my husband, I'm like, I think my water just broke. And he kind of like sat up a little bit. He's like, are you sure? And I said, yeah. He gets up and he's like, okay, well, I'm gonna do the dishes and I'm gonna clean up the house a little bit and then we'll get ready to go. And I said, I think it's okay. Like, I don't think we need to rush and, you know, hurry and get to the hospital because I'm not having any contractions. And I texted my doctor and I told her, I think my water just broke. And she said, okay, does it, you know, keep leaking? And, you know, just kind of asked me questions to make sure that that's really what was going on. And I told her, yeah, like, I'm pretty sure this is it. And she said, okay, you know, just take your time, don't rush into the hospital. You know, just, you can take a shower, do whatever you want to do. I'm like, okay. So, but Kyle definitely wanted to hurry and get to the hospital just in case. Get to the triage, and long story short, you know how that works. They just kind of sat me in a bed in a room and monitored me a little bit, and they checked to see if my water really had broken, and I was literally just soaking wet from like waist down. And it okay, oh, 20 minutes. So then they took me to my labor and delivery room. I wasn't having any contractions yet, so I was just feeling good and like, okay, yeah, this is great, you know. I was actually looking forward to contractions starting, because then it was like, okay, this is really happening and I can stay here and whatever. So I think around like 2 a.m. or so, my contractions started to pick up and get actually painful, and the doctor checked me, and I think I was about a 6, and so at that point I was like, okay, I know I want to get an epidural. I don't want to wait too much longer, because what if I progress really quickly, which I kind of had been progressing, you know, fairly quickly. I was at a 3, you know, just a couple hours prior, and then I was at a 6, so I didn't really know how long I would, you know, have left to go before I could start pushing. So to get the epidural, I had to have an entire IV bag of fluids already in my system before I could get the epidural. They just do that as like a precautionary thing for like your blood pressure or something. I won't go into too much detail just because I don't know, I don't really remember a lot of it, but there was one point during my while getting my epidural where the anesthesiologist hit a nerve or something, and mind you, here I am like bent over holding on to the nurse because Kyle couldn't help me. I don't know, I guess they didn't want the dad to pass out, so I'm holding on to the nurse and just like trying to breathe through contractions while holding perfectly still and having this needle put in my back. And at one point she like hit this nerve, and it felt like my right leg was being electrocuted. It was like shaking and convulsing uncontrollably, and I just had to sit there, and she's like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "I'm being electrocuted, like what are you doing to me?" So after that, you know, the epidural was in. I don't really remember if I was feeling any better per se. I guess the contractions, I wasn't really feeling them in my stomach as much. But later on, I was feeling like pressure. I guess like the whole time I was really feeling pressure, which I hear is normal. I don't really know if everybody has had the same experience. But I was feeling a lot of pressure, you know, down there and where the baby was going to come out, and I didn't think that I would be feeling any pain at all with this epidural. So I called the nurse in, and I told her, I'm like, I'm really feeling a lot of pain, and she's like, okay, what kind of pain are you feeling? Are you still feeling contractions, or what kind of pain are you feeling? And I told her I'm feeling all this pressure, and she's like, okay, well there's not really much I can do about the pressure, because you want to feel that to be able to, I don't know, push better or whatever. So I was like, okay, so I'm going to be in this pain that is horrific. Anyway, time went on, and I was still feeling all this pressure and this pain, and I got to the point where I felt like I had to push every single contraction, and contractions were pretty close together at this point. So I was having like contraction after contraction and feeling this pressure, this pain, this like urge to push, and I had to push like that entire time. So the nurse came in, and she's like, okay, well you're at like a 9.5, so we can, you know, do some practice pushes, or, you know, try to get you all the way to a 10. And so anyway, we did that for probably, I want to say like 30 to 45 minutes, maybe an hour. And she's like, okay, we'll just take a break, because I was like exhausted already. After I pushed for however long and I was resting, I was not able to rest. Like, I had to call the nurse in again and tell her, I am in so much pain, please help me. So she had the anesthesiologist come in and put some more medicine in my epidural or something like that, and that did nothing. it didn't do anything. So I called in the nurse another time, like one last time after I had pushed again, you know, for however long. So she gave me something else that actually kind of took the edge off, and I was able to relax, you know, in between contractions, even though I was still having to push on every contraction. So push for probably about 3 hours, and with breaks, but without breaks because I was having to push the entire time. Or it was 10 centimeters, so I was, you know, it was time, you know, the baby was coming, and his head was not totally where it needed to be for him to, you know, come out. And so they called the doctor in because I was at 10, and they're like, okay, you know, we're gonna get the doctor in here, you're gonna get this baby out here. So the doctor comes in and they're like, okay, we're gonna help you get this baby out. And I was like, okay, I don't know what that means, but whatever. And so they put this like blue tarp, I am kind of like up where I couldn't see anything down there. The first thing that they tried is they tried like a suction cup thing. And they tried the suction about 3 different times, and that didn't work. And then after that, they tried forceps, and they tried that 3 different times, and that didn't work. And so after all of this, I had to have a C-section. And he was just too big, he wasn't coming out. And so they said, we're gonna do a C-section. You know, nothing's happening, you're not... You know, I was pushing and he would like kind of scoot down a little bit, but it, you know, as soon as I'd stop pushing, he would go back up or something. So anyway, after all that hard work, I had to have C-section, which I am totally okay with. I'm like, okay, just get him out, I don't care, you know, I just want him to be safe, I want to be safe, I don't want to feel this pain anymore, just get him out of here.